A 15-minute drive and a century are just about all that separates the Arvada Center from the historic Elitch Gardens Theater, at least when it comes to the center's upcoming production of Ragtime the Musical.
This is the historic Elitch Gardens Theater. It was opened in 1891. The stage floor was built in 1890, but they built the exterior for the theater in 1891. And it's as it was then as it is now. In its heyday was during the same time that Ragtime takes place.
And Arvada Center musical director David Nels, who also sits on the board of the Elitch Gardens Theater, finds parallels between the real Ragtime era and Ragtime the Musical. It's almost as if the music is playing here still.
When you walk in the place, that's what I hear, because it is of that era. That was its big heyday from 1901 until 1916. And that's when Ragtime was happening, and you know Ragtime was played here.
Elitch's is the oldest summer stock theater in the country, running from 1893 to 1991. Nels and other board members hope to eventually get it reopened and back to its glory days as an arts center. Especially in its early decades, it was the place to go for family entertainment.
It drew from everywhere in the country. You know, people would take the train to come here, but definitely Arvadans came here. People would bring out their finest, the big feather hats. There are some photos you see of people just dressed to the nines to come here. It was a big deal to come here.
And they weren't disappointed. The marquee was a who's who of entertainers of the day.
People like Cecil B. DeMille, Antoinette Perry, Grace Kelly, Frederick March, Douglas Fairbanks Sr. all got their starts here. So this is where they first honed their craft before going off to Broadway in Hollywood or wherever. And pretty much anybody who was anybody on the acting scene in the last century worked here, including Sarah Bernhardt.
Visitors could stroll the gardens, have dinner, and enjoy the show. Though it's easy to romanticize history, then, like now, some tough life stories played out, just like in Ragtime the Musical, set in that turn-of-the-century era.
It was all about change. It was all about the Industrial Revolution. It was all about immigration into this country, and this country was a real golden path to so many people who weren't already here. And then they would show up and find out, oh, this is actually a tough life, and maybe as tough as the life that I'd left, which is one of the stories told in Ragtime by the immigrant.
Ragtime portrays a fictional family that comes into contact with real historical figures like Houdini or Booker T. Washington.
It's a very epic story, but one that's so beautifully told, and it's one of the finest pieces of theater out there, modern musical theater out there.
The play takes its name from the music genre of the day, a style with a beat that even music veteran Nels says can be challenging to play.
It came out of the African-American idiom in the early 20th century and late 19th century. It's the precursor to jazz and the blues, and it was, in its day, kind of what rap music was in the 1980s. So again, there's that relevancy that it was bringing about a music that nobody had heard before. It was very exciting. It made some people angry, and it made some people absolutely ecstatic.
The music, like the play, is all high energy.
It is on a very large scope, and it deals with many of the issues of the day. Race, sensationalism, the women's suffrage. It's a big show.
The Broadway production played in huge theaters in New York. As always, the Arvada Center will put its own unique stamp on it.
This production will be massive. You know, the Arvada Center productions are really largely done. But in this intimate setting, it's going to be very focused.
Focused and high energy, with ragtime music at its core. Ragtime the Musical runs September 13th through October 2nd at the Arvada Center. For tickets, call the box office at 720-898-7200 or go online at arvadacenter.org.